Isaiah, chapter 43, verse 7 says, "Everyone who is called by my name, whom I created for my glory, I formed him and I made him." Notice the three synonyms for creation here. Rashi, in his commentary, says, "Although they experienced exile and trouble, I prepared for them all the necessities of their redemption." This looks like a paradox, like they experience exile and trouble, and yet within exile and trouble there are the necessities of their redemption. The world is not simple, the world is complex, and this is the beauty of it. Okay, most belief systems, whether in religion and in art, any other thing, try to get people stuck in certain mentality. They try to keep God in a box, so they require simple answers, logical solutions. Everything has to be black or white, one or the other. But the world is so complex. There's so much complexity in the universe with all this quantum physics, quantum mechanics, all these things that make the world very complex and paradoxical. So we have to learn to embrace paradoxes. And if the world is complex, how much more so God himself? So we can see, for example, in the Talmud, when the sages discuss different verses and different they try to answer different questions, they offer sometimes contradictory opinions. One sage says one thing, the other sage says the opposite, and sometimes there are even 4 different opinions. And the heavenly voice comes and says, "Oh, this and this is the voice of God." So what is this? So they give opposite opinions, and all of them are supposed to be the voice of God. It's because each one of them is true in their own realm of reality. Okay, each one of them is true in different levels of reality. And this is the thing. The verse in Isaiah that I mentioned here mentions 4 levels of consciousness, 4 levels of reality, the 4 worlds in Kabbalah, which we are going to mention now. The world is not binary. The world is not simple. The world is not black or white. There's a wide spectrum of gray. There is so much complexity in the universe. You can see this in politics. People lean to the left wing. Some people lean to the right wing. In the middle, there are so many ideas, hippies, cults, and all crazy stuff. And not all of them are. It's not only one of them who is right, but the truth is within all of them. So there is this fine line that we have to tap into. I love to use the example of success because I think it's the most obvious one. The first type of people, they try to earn success. They work hard. They work really hard. If they could, they would work 100 hours a day because they believe that the world is wild and only the hardest people, the strongest, survive. So they earn their success. And there are other type of people who use their brain and they do the same amount of money with less work. And then there's another type of people that care more about their inner self more than the outside world, and they achieve the same success. They succeed equally, but with a totally different perspective of the world. And yet there's a 4th type of people who believe they are limitless. And they earn the same success, but the difference is that they earn it by meditation, prayer, and basically positiveness. So what is going on here? They surrender to the Creator, they are happy, and they succeed just as much as the one who worked hard. So it's because the person who works hard, he thinks that by earning his success, he's going to be happy. So he goes through this suffering, through this working hard, because he feels an achievement and he feels the right thing, and he thinks he will find happiness in the end. But the fourth type of people, the limitless one, they realize that what they want is to be happy. So they are happy since the first. And then success comes to them instead of them having to achieve success. You see? So there's these levels of consciousness, and everyone operates mostly in one of them. It doesn't mean that you don't walk through these levels of consciousness. We all do. And of course God does it, because God is everywhere at the same time, so he taps into all levels of consciousness at the same time. But we are like, sometimes we are in one, sometimes we are in another, but mostly our nature is to be in one of them. And we are born within this type of consciousness, and some people, they shift their consciousness during lives. So what are these levels of consciousness? The Yeshayahu mentions here, everyone who is called by my name. You know, the name of God has 4 letters. So we're talking about 4 levels of consciousness. When someone is called by God, is because there's a purpose. The purpose is what we call absolute, the emanation, okay? Then everyone who is called by my name, and whom I created for my glory. Created. This is the second world. It's Beriah, creation. And I formed him. That's the third world, the formation, Yetzirah. And then I made him. That's the realm of working, the realm of making, which is Asiyah, the lower world, the work hard people, where the work is done, basically. So we see we have this from Kabbalah, these 4 levels of consciousness, and we can see them all around the world. For example, in Judaism, there's this type of people who want to only fulfill the commandments and they fulfill the mitzvot, and they study halakha, Jewish law, and the codes, and they reject askafa and philosophy. Even if it's Jewish philosophy, they reject it. They are not interested into it. They are only into the works thing. And then there's the higher type of people who are into Emunah. They believe that everything is Hashem. That everything is by faith, okay? The righteous works by faith, lives by faith, sorry. So they believe that all the words of the tzaddikim are from God. So these 2 levels of consciousness, and there is a spectrum in the middle, in between them, with so many details, with so many differences of people. But you see, it all works in the same way. So it says, Rashi, I mentioned in the beginning, although they experience exile and trouble, I prepare for them all the necessities of their redemption. It means that the people who are working within this level of consciousness is because they have to rectify certain parts of their soul. And so they operate within this consciousness level because it's the best thing for them to achieve their correction, the correction of their soul. Other people are in a different level of consciousness because they have to operate within that level, because they have to correct certain part of their soul. We can also see that within each level of consciousness there are 4 different types of the human soul, which are neshama, nefesh, ruach, neshama, and chaya. Anyway, so it's for their redemption, it's for the correction of their soul, why they are in this level of consciousness. But as I told you, God operates within all of them, and we have to learn to tap into different levels of consciousness depending on our goals, depending on what we have to do, what we want to do, okay? And this is when we bring all of this into the practical level. And the practical level we see, for example, the example of the sin. When we commit sin, that's an important thing. When we commit sin, okay, before the sin, we have to tap into the lower level in which we have free will. Before the sin, we operate within this realm in which humans have free will. So we have to decide not to sin, okay? If you want to do it, you do it. If you don't want to do it, you don't do it. But what happens if we sin? If we sin and we get stuck in this level, we are going to get depressed, we are going to abandon God, we are going to abandon ourselves to the realm of the Sitra Achra, the people of the Asiyah, the evil forces, so to say. And we are going to be depressed and sick and all of this. So we have to tap into a higher level of consciousness, the consciousness that tells us that everything is Hashem. So I committed a sin, but it was because God wanted it to be. God wanted it to be because God is in charge of everything, and nothing escapes God. God wanted me to rectify something. God wanted me to notice something. Maybe I was too arrogant and I committed a sin because God wanted to humble me, for example. So I have to learn something from this, that everything is for Hashem and everything is for the good, and that Hashem has a purpose for it. So if we tap into this mentality, we are going to overcome sin. So you see, everything works in this realm. I hope I spoke clearly enough, and I hope it was helpful.